Okay, boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning into a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have an amazing guest with us, one who I'm very humbled and honored would take time out of his busy schedule to come give us some information as well as some inspiration. And that is none other than Brother Enoch Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam. Humble and thankful for the invitation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, the first thing, before we get started, you watched myself and my siblings and many of us who went to MUI Chicago grow up. And I've noticed you and the great work that you have done in the community with Hip Hop Detoxx, but especially when I was younger, I just remember you always being around rappers and rapping and performing and being in the culture, arts and culture and things of that nature. Well, how did you first get into music?
I was in high school. I attended a school, the second largest school in Chicago, Chicago Vocational High School. I was a Cavalier. And, you know, we had about 5,000 plus students in one building. You probably seen it before. It's on 87th and Jeffrey. Okay. And it's huge. Only school bigger is Lane Tech here in Chicago. So, you know, some of my guys, you know, we all was into rap, you know. Of course, Chicago house music was big as well. But when you started being able to dance to hip hop, it became, man, the girls are going to, you know, some of the hip hop parties too. So we could kind of mix it up a little bit. And so, you know, I know you're gonna laugh at this name, but this goes back into the 80s. My group was called Jammin' G and the SWAT Posse.
Okay.
SWAT Posse.
Okay.
Special Weapons Attack Team. So, you know, we came together, I think my junior year in high school. And that's when I first got my start, you know, as a hip hop dancer. I started off dancing first. And then the lead, you know, the rapper, you know, I was watching him, working with him, and then I began writing rhymes. And then that just, you know, that was my initial start into hip hop.
Okay, amazing. Yes, sir. And from hip hop, how did you get you know, Chicago into the nation?
Wow. You know how sometimes, you know, there's a principle that says whatever precipitates activates. Whatever precipitates activates. And the precipitation that occurred before me going into the nation, I remember one of the brothers in Chicago that was in the mosque before I was, and we went to high school together, Big P, or the Perry. He was on the E team at the time, and I was working at the airport. I was at United Airlines, and I was just 18 years of age, you know, working as an Andy Frame security guard, pushing wheelchairs and helping people off the airplanes and everything. And I happened to see a group of men in long black leather trench coats, you know, coats, and they were running through the airport, moving fast. I'm like, man, who is that? And then I said, yo, P! That was Big Perry. And he gave me, you know, he said, oh, what's up, bro? Peace. And I was just like, man, you know, I was just looking. And that was my first time seeing the minister, not really knowing, you know, who he was. And, but I remember Pete telling me that, you know, he was in the Nation of Islam. So that was just like, doop, I went in. And then as a, you know, hip hop dancer, I met Sister Jamila Farrakhan, who's a cousin of the minister. And at that time, she was at a car wash. I guess she was managing or working there. It was called Gigolos on like 55th, right off of State, I think it was. And she was she's a singer as well, a beautician, and so she happened to see me and my dance partner at the Hummingbird in Chicago, where we was part of a dance competition, and she was like, man, I really like you all. And so she put us in her limo, drove us around, talking about, you know, how we was about to blow up because she was singing, and we actually performed, you know, as her background dancers. And so we would go to practice over at the minister's house on Damon on 94th. And I remember when I first came into the house, you know, I'm looking around at this time, you know, I'm eating pork chops. I'm drinking 40s and kicking it. You know what I mean? I'm living life. So I happened to look up and see the Star and Crescent. I'm like, man, y'all El Rukins? Or y'all some Rice Lords up in here?
Yeah.
So, so she was like, no, we Muslim. And, and she had to tell me that because I was, she had ordered some pizza and she's like, what kind of pizza you want? Like some sausage pizza?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's like all those things were like little drops, that precipitated me getting Message to the Black Man in my hand. And it came at a critical time because my sister's father, who I look at as my father in terms of being one that was in the home and was really, working to put discipline on me in particular because of how wild I was growing up. He saw that I was in a position where, I had signed up for the military when I was 17, and they wouldn't allow me to go to basic training because I wasn't old enough because my born day is in August. So I had to wait. So I went a whole year, going through basic training, going to military, drill every month. And when I was supposed to have gone to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, because I was field artillery, 13B1, when my time came, I had a car accident, couldn't go, had to wait. And that gave me enough time to heal. But my father said, you know what? I want you to read this book. He put Message to the Black Man in my hand. And he told me not to go, to the military, not to re-enlist, because I was on medical leave. He said, no, don't go back. He said, go ahead and read this. And I can tell you with all honesty, when I picked that book up and read it, brother, first of all, I couldn't put the book down. I had never heard of this kind of information. Like I literally lived a life where I was 18 and I've read Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James. That was interesting. I read the Browder Files, Anthony Browder. And those were enlightening, but it wasn't nothing like Message to the Black Man. That book like smacked me in the face. I'm like, this man is talking about for thousands of years this and for millions, we God? I was like, it was just a whole different concept. So I spent months trying to prove it wrong. I wanted to prove it right, but I was, I had just started going to junior college, and I said, man, every chance I get, I'm going to use every class to try to figure out if this is right, because I got to study this stuff. I got to research it. And those are the things that led to me March 26th of 1991, getting registered and getting my ex, Mas Mariam. And, when I saw I went to Savior's Day in February for Who is God, that was it. That was it for me. The Mind of God was in 90, and I think that might have been December. That hit me extremely hard. But by the time we got from the Mind of God lecture to Who is God, oh, it was over with. It was a done deal. It was just a matter of me reciting then. So yeah, that was like the quick version of the process of what it took for me to come into the mosque. And and different ministers like prison minister Abdullah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
And some of the other brothers, I would chase them down. I'm asking a gazillion questions when I'm processing because I'm trying to prove everything, and so praise be to Allah. That was like my journey, coming in.
Excellent. Praise be to Allah, and I'm happy that happened. My sister Naima sends the greetings, and Sister Alicia sends the greetings. My next question for you is, how did your family and friends feel about you accepting the teachings?
Well, my guys thought I was crazy. I'm just gonna be real. My guys, they was looking at me like, 3-4 months ago, or really a month ago, like, man, we kicking it, man. We going to 31st Street Beach, we smoking these Tiparillos, we drinking, you know what I mean? Man, when I told them I wasn't going out with them, and what you about to go do? I'm studying, man. And then they would call me and they're like, what you doing? Man, I'm researching this stuff, man. They're like, you gonna spend the rest of your life studying? And I'm like, yep. Yep, I'm spending the rest of my life studying. So they thought I was off my rocker. They was like, man, he going through something. And I was living with my grandmother because I ran away from home when I was 14 years of age. I ran away from home and, kind of was moving around. Sometimes I would sleep on park benches or be on the train going back and forth until I settled into living with my grandmother, which is my father's mom. And, I went through all kind of stuff with my grandmother, putting her through hell, sneaking girls in the house, and she catch me, in a bad way in the bedroom, and I'm doing all kind of stuff, and she would, threaten to kick me out. And do you know that she kicked me out the house when I stopped talking on the phone all the time, when I stopped coming in the house real late? Like I was 15 years old, coming in the house at about 5 in the morning. Like I would leave for a party at 11. The party didn't start, didn't get jumped until midnight. So I would leave at that time and I wouldn't come home to 4 or 5. And so, my grandmother didn't really know how to deal with that. And so, brother, when she heard me listening to the minister, she said, "You gotta get out of my house." And I think what did it was she cooked a couple of meals, and her usual pork chops, I didn't eat them no more. Pork chops and pork and beans. I wasn't eating them. And she started looking at me and watching me, and she said, "You have to leave my house. You can't stay here no more." And that, and so my mother, she accepted me back in the house. To, I made my changes where I began to discipline myself with the teachings. And so they allowed me to come move with them and live with them. And they encouraged me, you know. But yeah, brother, it was a mixed review. I had cousins who was Christians and former attendees at the mosque. Some of them was vice lords that would come to the mosque, whatever, but they would go back to the street, and they were like, well, he's just going through a fad. He going through a phase, because they went through it like that.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I had some some interesting situations with family that it caused some problems. I don't know if you all ever heard the story about the brother who threw the Christmas tree down the staircase. That was me. A lot of people tell me different things they heard, and then when I tell them it was me that did that, they was like, "That was you?" Yeah, I threw my mama's Christmas tree down the steps when I started studying about Christmas, and I was like, "Man, we pagans, man. We can't be." And I threw the tree down the steps. My cousin, he was a GD, and so I got him out of the GDs, and so he was 15, Douglas 2X, and he went home and learned about why we shouldn't eat pork, and he threw all the pork. His mama, his mama was pissed off, but the pork was thrown in the garbage, so he was getting cussed out for that, and so yeah, we had we had quite a few situations with family.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Has that? Okay, I was going to ask. After all these years, has everything worked out?
With some family members, with some family members, I would say most family members, in the sense that they saw that it wasn't a fad and that we were true and real. Some family members, when they know that they can't move you to where they are, then they just, they kind of limit themselves in terms of what they may talk to you about, because, if you're about to go ahead and, do something that I'm off top gonna say, well, nah, that's okay, I'm cool. And I might even ask you a question about it, like, why you gonna go ahead and, you gonna hit that lick? Why you gonna do that? You know what I mean? You just got out of jail, why you gonna go back and do that? Well, man, how am I gonna make some money? Well, look, let's talk about it. So we got some family members that we can talk it out and come up with some solutions. And then some family members, they kind of stuck, so, you do your best.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. What was it like for you coming in, being young, during the time you came in? What was the climate like in Chicago, like as far as in the mosque, like training and your brotherhood? What was that like?
I didn't have anything to compare it to until maybe I started coming out to the mosque. I think it was like November, December of 1990. So I didn't go to another mosque until I went to Naptown, Indianapolis. Big brother Aziz was brother James 2X, hitting it hard in Naptown. So that was like, I don't know, maybe May or June. So Chicago Mosque, you know, I found out later the atmosphere was just, it was unbelievable, you know, when it comes to, I'm in a mosque where all the brothers really cared, you know, from my experience coming in, it's like I had never received that kind of genuine love and care about you as a person, you know, and wanting to see you just grow. And, you know, for my first probably close to a full year, that would be my year of joy. And then my next year was the year of pain. So I had a chance to experience extreme like joy. Like I love going to the mosque. Like that was the new party. You know what I mean? That was the kicking spot.
Yes,
I mean,
sir. Yes, sir.
you know, I mean, I slept at the mosque.
Mm.
So we were part of that crew, you know, before I joined the task force, because the first squad I was in was Al Jihad squad with brother Walter,
Okay.
Walter 2X, you know, brother Larry and brother David and, you know, and brother Elliot. May Allah be pleased with him.
And I'll be pleased with Brother Elliot. Yes, sir.
And so I was part of a squad where it was a mixed, you know, age, you know, of brothers who, you know, some was businessmen, they were family men, and some like, you know, high school, college students. So it was very interesting the type of care, I would say, you know, and concern that the brothers had. And, you know, I'm always doing something. It was never a, you know, you're not doing anything type of moment. And by the time I joined the task force, it just increased. You know, Sunday, you know, 10 o'clock, we cleaning up the mosque, you know what I mean? And we preparing for mosque meeting. Monday, we soldiering early in the morning. You know, some of us got businesses. We selling fruit bags, you know what I mean? We on the corners, fruit bag, take care of 2 or 3 hours of fruit bags, and we selling final call on the train. You know, I used to be on the train with Amzai and Shebaniah and, man, brother Quinn Cedric, and we hold the train up. Final call, the paper that tells all. And I'm talking about we would captivate the train. You know, usually I would be the one speaking. They would have the donation cans, and we selling papers, holding the meeting while the train is going. And we would go from train to train, and we do that back and forth from like 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning, all the way to maybe 2, 3 o'clock. You know, we come back with the mumps. We used to call it the mumps. You know what I mean? We got the pocket full, the donation can full, and paper's gone. You know, and that would be an everyday thing. And at nighttime, you know, we had activities. I mean, at that time, I think because of the Gulf War, the minister put us, I don't want to say sanctions, but he put us on a heavier restriction where we weren't to go to the movies because there were threats that they would possibly bomb places where a lot of people congregated. And so, you know, when I joined the task force, it was like, well, we move as a team. We never move alone. So we would go 20 deep, 30 deep, go bowling, 20 deep, 30, you know, 30 deep, go to the movies, suited and booted. You know what I mean? So it was a whole different experience where 7 days a week, pretty much we had something to do. So it was just a whole way of life. You know, when I think about it, when you ask that question, it just brings back so many memories. But that was probably one of the driving forces to help young brothers stay on point, is that we had something to do, and it was a variety of things: martial arts, boxing, basketball, rapping, going to hip hop conventions, going to perform when Cube was in town, or TLC was over here and we at Club Ultimate, or we holding security down for the Black Expo. You know, it was such a variety of things to do, and it was needed, you know, so that you wouldn't get bored like you just part of a church, where you just go into a church meeting and you clap, you know, and you praise God, and then that's it. And you have nothing else to do because there's no other activities.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah.
Well, what happened? And thank everybody for watching people's podcasts. And once you put on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. What happened? Did you say you went from your first year of the greatest joy to the greatest sadness?
You know, one of the things that I didn't know and didn't understand. I remember one time in a meeting with the minister, I communicated to him. I said, you know, I felt like it was a setup when I first, after I went through all the hell that I went through and I had to reflect on it. And he said, well, how do you feel it was a setup? I said, when we first come into the mosque, you get taught that after everything else fails in your life, here comes Islam.
Mm.
So, you know, me going to jail, you know, when I was 15 and, you know, all the crazy stuff that I went through. Okay, you come into, you know, Islam and okay, this is salvation. But then a little while later, you get taught that Islam makes manifest all your defects.
Mm. 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 Mm.
So you think you own something and you are, but then things that you didn't even know was hidden in you get brought out. And then people who are around you, their defects get brought out. And now you got defect, rubbing on defect, rubbing on defect. And now it's like friction. And what do you do? And so, you know, it took time for me to learn through a lot of different processes that, you know, the byproduct, one of the byproducts of doing work is the pain that come from doing work, is the miscommunication, the injury, you know, the way that we rub each other wrong. That's a byproduct of doing work. We say work is force times distance. And when you do work, there's going to be friction. And if you don't have a process by which, like the proper way of handling people or the science of atonement or something that allows for you to deal with resolving conflicts, you know, internally and externally, you know, self-improvement and the science of it. If you don't have a way of utilizing it in a practical way, then you begin to try to find ways to deal with the pain. And that usually leads to you trying to find some pleasure.
Mm.
And of
Mm.
course, being that you accepted Islam, well, you know, you accept the restrictive laws. You know, you're not supposed to fornicate. You're not supposed to commit adultery. You're not supposed to drink. You're not supposed to do the things that you were doing before you came in. But you're looking for a pain reliever. And that's what intensifies that sadness, is that, man, I let myself down. You know, I let my squad down. Why, you know, I'm trying to deal with this issue that have nothing to do with me getting with this sister. You know what I mean? It don't have nothing to do with it. However, it does because I'm looking for a pain reliever, because evidently my prayers is not working fast enough for me. I'm in so much pain. You know,
Mm.
I'll pick up, you know, drinking some Hennessy because, man, I just need to zone out because, man, I don't want to do nothing wrong because I feel like I'm about to kill somebody up in this piece. You know what I mean? And so you're trying to find a balance. And when you're not able to find that balance, especially when you're young in this and you don't understand that your real validation and your real recognition and approval don't come from people. It really don't.
Yes, sir.
And the sad thing about it is that when you're young, you don't know that. You know, you want the approval of so and so who's in authority. And when so and so in authority smacks you upside your head because they feel like you a threat to their position and don't recognize that you are inspiration to me. You know, I'm not trying to take your post. I'm just inspired by you, and it's making me want to do more. I'm only 18, 19, you 26.
Mm.
You know, and so some of those things that took place where, you know, I started bumping heads with people. And, you know, by you being one that would come down to the task force office, you know, you remember how that whole setup was. It was, you know, we were all downstairs in the basement. So I would be one of those who was part of the team that would help to set up um, speaking engagements for Brother Akeem, and, you know, get us in different places. And, you know, when your father, you know, and I really appreciate his spirit of being an entrepreneur, a businessman, and a Muslim. You know, I remember when he called a meeting, omnipotent enterprise meeting, and he said, "Look here, you all. There's no way we got somebody rapping in here and signed to a label, and we don't help him. So everybody that can, you need to take a position." And I'll never forget it. He said, "Get a music business book. Find a position in that book and do it." And at that time, brother, we, you know, when you asked me the question about, you know, when I first got into rap, our rap group didn't go far because when we were given like an opportunity to move forward in the industry, we didn't know that we shouldn't have a real estate attorney looking over a music contract, you know. And so we never went real far with that contract because the real estate attorney really couldn't do justice by us. And so when I read the first music business book, you know, because your father suggested it, that's what got me not only into the music business, but it even inspired me to start back writing and rapping because Akeem needed help. And the reality is that when somebody inspires you, but then you begin to have conflict with the person that inspires you because they're looking at you as a possible competitor or something, then you know that began the process of me kind of like, man, what the hell going on here? You know, and when you get that many brothers, we had probably about 85 on the roster at that time as part of the task force. The oldest was 26, 27. The youngest might have been 13. So when you start, you know, when people see that, you know, either they don't say anything or they'll take the side of authority, you know, even though of authority is not correct. And so I kind of, you know, began feeling that alienation, and I started going through the motions, and it became a thing where I felt more and more pushed out, even though I was his booking agent and I would be the one that would introduce him at the schools and kind of be his hype man, you know, coming on. So I think those kinds of experiences and me not understanding how to handle it, along with other things that, you know, I was going through, because you can't, you know, look at it on one side. You know, it's like I'm going through something, but I didn't know how to deal with it, you know. And I would say that was like the start of, you know, me getting into that pain and not knowing how to regulate that pain. And it got so bad, like, you know how we do the prayer, oh Allah, I seek refuge from anxiety and grief.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
didn't
sir.
really know, I didn't really know what anxiety was. Like I didn't look the word up. But I later learned about the power of stress and anxiety because at one point I was only a year, let me see, maybe a year and a couple of months in, I was filled with so much stress that I thought, like, I had these suspenders on. You know how we wear suspenders with our suits?
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
thought my suspenders was too tight. So, you know, because I had so much pain in my back area. And I was beginning to lean over as if like somebody was hitting me with a sledgehammer. And I didn't realize that these were knots, you know, in my back that was forming in my back because of the stress. And so I had to go down the street to Jackson Park Hospital, and they gave me some muscle relaxers, and that's when I learned that it was probably a stress issue. And it got so bad, now that I think about it, brother Benny Mo in Chicago,
Yes, sir.
brother Benny Mo, he looked at me, and at the height of my being stressed out, I broke out into hives. And Benny Mo was the only one that looked at me. He looked at my face. He said, "God damn." He was like, "God damn, what's wrong with your face?" Nobody talked to me though to tell me that, hey, bro, what's stressing you? You know. So that was pretty much like this. 1992 was when I left Chicago, and I went down to Carbondale, Illinois. And that's where I eventually, you know, started going to school and graduated, you know, from Southern Illinois University with my bachelor's. But when I went down there, I was going to just get a break. You know, some of my guys, they was going to school down there and they welcomed me to, you know, come down there. But I was going down this just to get a breather because the pain was that great. And I wrote the minister before I had left. I don't know if he ever received the letter, but I expressed to him that, you know, since I've been in the mosque, I experienced the greatest joy. I also experienced the greatest pain I ever felt in my life. You know, because to be extremely received and you feel love, and then that love, you feel the exact opposite. You start feeling hate, and it's like, damn, what the hell is this? You know, and again, not knowing how to deal with it. you know, fight, flight, or freeze. Those are the three, responses that we make when we get into certain situations. And I'm just like, man, I'm up. I can't take no more of this. And of course, it didn't help that my self-accusing spirit was whooping my ass because I was not having sex. I think I stopped having sex like when I started studying. I was, my girlfriend. I'm like, no, you know what I mean. Come to the mosque. And so when you celibate and you on it, you feel good. You know what I mean? Like, man, these people trying to live like the people in the Bible. That's what I was telling my friends. Like, man, people talk about this, but these people are really trying to live it. Because I wasn't no church person growing up. My mother was a supporter of the Black Panther Party. So when I grew up, I got 19 uncles and aunts. Some of them GDs, some of them stones, some of them sold dope. A few went to college here and there, but man, all my cousins, I mean, I wasn't pushed into no religion, I remember going to the mosque with my mother. She had a friend named Shahida Kwam, and she was a poet. And under Imam Wadafuddin Muhammad, I remember going with my mother. I didn't know where I was, but I went, when they were over at the mosque. And my mother, I think, may have taken me to church maybe once or twice. And I remember her, letting some Jehovah's Witnesses in the house, and they gave us some books to read. And I remember trying to read the Bible at that time, but I couldn't make, all that Shakespearean language. I didn't understand that.
Yes, sir.
I wound up tossing them out the window, and I lived in the projects, the infamous White Building. I don't know if you ever heard of Leah and her first album. She's talking about the White Building. I lived on the 17th floor. R. Kelly and his family lived on the 9th floor. And then my cousins lived, my cousin lived on the 9th floor. I think R. Kelly was like on the 10th or 11th. But we lived in the White Building, 6250 South Michigan. And man, my whole experience, brother, I was taking Bibles and stuff and throwing them out the window, tossing them, being ignorant, but I wasn't religious, So for me to see people really trying to live this, man, that hit me hard.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't fake. So to go from that type of love and just, man, life, to then going to the exact opposite, I didn't know how to handle it.
Yes, sir. Well, what was it like? How did you? So you go away to school. What brings you back around, and how does what was it like come back around the ministry after everything had transpired?
Well, I didn't like leave because when Brother Aaron, may Allah be pleased with him and what he was able to do.
Yes, sir.
When Brother Aaron committed suicide, that brought me back to Chicago. I couldn't believe it. I was ready to go to South Carolina to tear something up because I just knew some crackers got to him. I knew I said some enemy, black or white, got to him because there's no way that he could have did that. And so I wasn't able to get to hear the lecture in person, the problems and causes of suicides and homosexuality. But I can tell you that's one lecture I probably listened to. The only lecture that may rival that lecture for me that I listened to over and over again was Who is God? And Savior's Day Gift of 1997, because that was fire. 1997 one, boy. That Savior's Day Gift wasn't no joke.
Yes, sir.
But brother, I came to the mosque to see how, what I can do, how I could help. So I was in Chicago for a few months, and I had brothers tell me, brother, the minister don't want no dummies. Go back to school. I know you came back up here and you want to help your nation, but man, you can help your nation by helping you to be a better you. And because I was told that, that's what made me go back down to Carbondale, And when I went back down there, I didn't come back to Chicago until I graduated. But while I was down there, I was fighting. ex-FOI, people who used to be in the nation that were now Orthodox Muslims. They used to pass around these pamphlets, Islam versus Farrakhanism. I'm like, y'all just don't know who y'all got down here. I'm the only FOI down here. You all gonna pass this out and think I'm not gonna say something? And I'll never forget a brother who is a historian and the helper of the minister, a nationalist brother named Hakeem Matabuti. I heard him come speak on campus at Southern, and he said something that really wasn't brotherly about the minister. And so I'm looking like, what? So I'm like, during the Q&A, I said, look, I said, I heard you say this about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I just want you to know that every time I heard him speak about you, he always had good things to say about you. He spoke highly of you, and I wouldn't even know anything about you if it wasn't for him mentioning your name and the work that you have done for Black people. So why are you communicating? And I kind of went in on him, but I was being respectful, but I kind of went in on him. And that got me started on campus because brothers was coming to me like, man, you know, you really checked him about saying, you know, what he was saying about the minister and Malcolm X and all of that. And that's what started me to build organizations on campus, which led to the Nation of Islam Student Association. We had a Noiser on campus, but before we had Noiser, we had the Black think tank. I started off with the Black man's think tank, meeting with the brothers in the dorms. And I was still at the junior college. I didn't even go to Southern Illinois University right away. I went to a junior college because all my guys say, don't spend your money first at a regular university and waste your money. Go take those prerequisites at a JUCO. And once you take your prerequisites, then cross over to SIU. So I wound up getting to SIU like in '96 officially. But I was all over campus helping to organize training. We were having a study group down there. And basically I established relationships with the Orthodox Muslims, the brothers who was coming out of the penitentiary down there, because you know in Southern Illinois you get over 37 penitentiaries, you know, in that area. So you got, you know, we got Big Muddy, Menard, Shawnee, Stateville. I mean, it's all kind of penitentiaries down there. So I started working with the brothers coming out the pen. And so when we built up the Black think tank, it was right on time for the Million Man March, and we organized, you know, praise be to Allah, brother. We was down there with the Ku Klux Klan. I never thought I would have a chance to meet some Klan members. I was so happy to see them. Like, I've been waiting for y'all, boy. I said, oh, I get a chance to meet some real life Klan members. Okay. You know, they challenged us. We was down there selling papers with our suit and bow ties. One of the dudes came with he had his pickup truck and had a gun rack and had the Confederate flag and all that. And he was like, the Klan boys know you all down here. I'm like, yeah. I said, yeah, we're gonna be right here selling papers. Let them know. You know, you ain't, man, it was a very interesting experience being down there because most people think in Illinois, you know, you up north. But once you leave Chicago, you ain't up north no more. You down south. They even had a little town right next to Carbondale called Anna, which stood for Ain't No Niggas Allowed. One of the sundown towns where they let you know, hey, you know what time it is. It's time for you to get up out of here. There's gonna be some problems if you're around when sun come down. So we had to organize in that environment because there was threats being made on anybody traveling to the Million Man March. So yeah, we was in the thick of it. So the brothers was ready. We had brothers from Carbondale who lived there, brothers who were students, you know, on campus. And man, we had to fight every step of the way to get there, you know, and back. But it was a blessing.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful, bro. Like, I didn't know none of this. Yes, sir.
And I'm glad we communicating, you know what I mean? Because
yes,
a lot of times we don't know each other's story because we don't get a chance to just sit down and talk, you know? And I want to just say to you, brother, in all sincerity, man, anything in our travels going back and forth and passing that had ever been miscommunicated on my part, you know, please, you know, apologize, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ain't no problem. Ain't no problem. We keep.
Yeah, and I just want to say that because, you know, we all have our circles and we see what we see based upon our view. You know? Sir. And so it don't make it unreal. It just may make it where you may not know the whole story.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So, but man, I appreciate us getting a chance to sit down and chop it up.
Praise be to Allah. And yeah, a lot of love in the comments. People saying Assalamu alaikum. My sister Mimi, brother Damon, sister Aisha. Sister Naima says, thank you for your honesty and transparency. Sister Aisha says, Islam will bring out the best and the worst in us. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is an honorable man. He truly loves us, even in our foolishness. And the clan ain't nothing compared to the FOI. Praise be to Allah.
Right.
Beautiful. Yes, sir. Yes, man. Thank you all for watching. My next question is, what was it like once the Most Honorable Louis Farrakhan got to know who you were individually, and y'all can just go on tour? Because I saw you when I saw you again, you were going on tour, Millions More Movement tour. You
Yes,
opening up for this. How did that happen?
Well, you got a two-part question there. At that time, I was managing DA Smart in 2004, 2005. This is at a time where we were doing the Hip Hop Detoxx, but we just didn't have the name. Like at that time, we called the work that we were doing, we called it the motivational experience. And we were trying to get it to be called Random. Random stood for Rhythm and Art Divine Unity Movement, because the style of the Hip Hop Detoxx is improvisational, even though it's scripted. It was still scripted, but there's a level of improvisation in it that allows you the freedom to just do you and go all at it. Like whatever you do, it's like, no, we're gonna segue Josh in, and whatever Josh do, give him time to do it. And then we'll segue somebody else in after Josh and make it seamless, but it'll make sense because we're telling a story.
Yes, sir.
Or teaching a lesson or whatever. And so DA was part of that. We had went to Ohio State University and we rocked it. We went to St. Louis and Columbus, Ohio. And I mean, we were doing work before we even were called the Hip Hop Detoxx. And so I came to the minister, I think at a church here in Chicago. At the time, I was managing DA and a band called Hypnotic Brass Ensemble. Their father is the great Phil Coran. And Phil Coran, a great legend musician. I'm talking about, he was in the mosque in the 60s, but he was also one of those artists that left the mosque when he couldn't do music and be, in the mosque under the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So he, some of his students were the leading members of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay.
So yeah, so brother, I wound up meeting him to get permission to manage his sons. And I'll never forget that experience, as I'm telling you this, because brother passed a couple of years ago, but I remember coming to his home on the north side of Chicago. His sons, he has lots of sons, so 7 of them play instruments. And I remember he had this harp, huge harp, and he was playing it, and he was talking about the planets, because he loves talking about the planets. And as he's playing it, I had told him that I was fasting, because he had offered me some food at first. And I said, no, sir, I'm fasting. But for some reason, after he did that with the harp, the frequencies hit me, and I'm like, man, I gotta eat now. I don't know what that did, but he was playing and he was talking, and so he asked me questions, and so I started managing Hypnotic. And so Hypnotic Brass Ensemble and DA Smart performed. It was at Reverend Al Sampson's church, and the minister was a keynote speaker. And so we came up, and me and DA, we did the song. I think it was two pieces, and I was up there with Hypnotic Brass Ensemble also. And so after we had that particular engagement, the minister and I spoke while he was sitting in the vehicle. And so I had a proposal that I gave to him directly, because we were planning on doing something called the In Them Streets tour. The In Them Streets tour was to hit the streets on a grassroots level and go to about 30 cities. And we were planning on connecting with all the grassroots organizations and doing what we do. And so I wanted to let him know about it, so that if there was any possibility of synergy, we could do it. And the minister looked at it, read it, and said, look here, I want you all to come on tour with me. and open for me. I'm like, oh, praise is due to Allah. I didn't imagine that. That wasn't even in my head. And when he said that, brother, it was so surreal. I was in a state of shock for a minute because I'm like, what? I'm like, the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan wants us to go on tour. And so, brother, for 23 cities, brother, you know, we missed the Milwaukee. I think he did the lecture dealing with Willie Lynch in Milwaukee, and so we missed that one. But then we was with him in Detroit, and so from Detroit we had dinner with the minister, and then after that, 23 cities later, we was just hitting, you know, hitting it. And so, you know, I would say, brother, for a period of time, it was hard for me to really focus as far as whenever I was with the minister, because it's just my appreciation. Because you know, when you have expectations of yourself and you begin to see yourself not making them in the way you feel like you should, then it makes you feel some type of way, and like you striving, you know, you want to keep fighting. And then to be with the man that gave you guidance and direction and put you on a path for your own self-improvement, so then you could be better to help your people, it's like, man, I just got to keep doing better, you know. And so for a period of time, I remember me and DA had a meeting with them before the 2008 Savior's Day, when we did the detox for the first time at the Regal Theater. And we were on the news here in Chicago, where he saw us doing the Hip Hop Detoxx at schools, and he saw us doing it at the barbershop, at Original Man Barber Style Shop, Brother Arthur and Brother Earl.
Yes, sir.
And so he saw what the news reported, and then when we met, I showed him raw footage of what we were doing all over the country. And so he said, brother, I want you to do this for Savior's Day. So we started talking about the potential artists that we could have to be part of that. And I'll never forget, brother, that in this meeting, like the minister would see certain things in the footage and he would say, stop that tape. And then he would talk about what he saw on that tape, you know, different testimonials and different things. And he was just giving guidance, man. And I had to have DA, because my mind was so all over the place. I said, brother, could you please, we're going to record what just happened in his meeting with the minister, because people are asking me what's going on. And I can't even talk. So I literally, it took me a while to get to the point where I could be very present, where I could really restate not only what was said, but then begin to kind of go into asking questions to get answers so that we could do more work. Because it's like, that's what we're here for. We're here to do the work to help. And
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so it was just a tremendous blessing, you know, to be able to not only sit with the minister and talk, but to discuss strategy, to discuss, you know, things that should be done and shouldn't be done to help in the process. Because, you know, Hip Hop Detoxx is a vehicle that anybody that wants to raise the consciousness and awareness of young people can travel on. It is geared for that purpose. And as a public health organization, we determined that, you know, we weren't just doing social service work or just youth development work. We were doing public health, because public health, when you look at the definition of it, according to the World Health Organization, public health and health in general is not just the absence of sickness or infirmity. It's the whole person, you know, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, economically. Yes, and so that's the work that we engage in. And so it took time for us to kind of discover what we were really doing, and we're still learning, we're still growing, you know. So all praise is due to Allah that those kind of interactions help us to see deeper, and the seeds that were dropped are still blooming. You know, it's still going through that process, you know. So all praise is due to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. And how can we support you in your business? I want all of the viewers that are watching now, but especially on YouTube, once we archive it, how can we support you and your business?
You know what? I would say this. if you have an interest in holistic human development, because that's the other meaning of HHD, and we had to learn that we couldn't go into the school system saluting. Brother, you would laugh at our first proposals. We going up in there in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's take a law off in the name of God, the beneficent. Nah, you can't do that. You got to speak the language of the people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we had to make changes that would allow for us to speak the language of behavioral change, you know, of dealing with trauma, of social emotional learning. And so anybody that, whether you are artist or not, some people think we only use our art form or people who are artists with the Hip Hop Detoxx. That's not true. I think some of the best people to help our people are people who understand, have an affinity for, or who are artists themselves. If you artistic, that's one of the three things that was pointed out to us that helps you to be a better servant to help elevate our people. So if you have artistic, you know, abilities, that's fine. But if you're not quote unquote artistic in the way of singing or dancing or rapping or poetry, you have a talent in some other area. Your talent might be mathematics, it might be science. That's a talent, you know. And so you don't have to be the one that do the quote unquote creative, you know, work on that end, but we can tie that in to be able to communicate to the youth as well as to the adults. So I would say that those who have an interest in like helping and being part, because we look for collaborations and partnerships and people that want to help, you know, people that say, hey, I just want to volunteer. How can I help? You can email us at hiphopdetoxx@yahoo.com. That's hiphopdetoxx@yahoo.com. You can communicate with us to let us know, hey, this is what I do. And, you know, if you have anything I can connect with, please do. Because in all truth, there's nothing that somebody can say really that we can't say, hey, we can utilize that. Because holistic human development is real. And we all got keys. You know, that's the one thing that I think this journey has really helped me to see, is that everybody got a key. And when you get billions of people that need our help, look, your key would be a key that unlock millions, because we got billions of people that need help. So, hey, you know, I'm open.
Praise be to Allah. I just have a few more questions for you, Brother Enoch, and thank you again for your patience.
Yes,
I
sir.
see all of the beautiful comments. I want to make sure that we give a special 60-second commercial break to our sponsors of the People's Podcast this month, especially this episode. I want to start off with Street Premier Media Production. My brother Rashad, he has a 4K camera, a drone. They're working on television and film editing. Thank you very much. My sister Miriam's children's book, ABC I Love Me, and coloring book, both of which are on Amazon. Make sure you go get that. My sister Naima, Stay on Point Dance Academy. We love our tiny dancers. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country. Nations Auto Sales LLC. He ships cars and trucks out of St. Louis, Missouri. Reach out to our brother. MTS Car Bros. Any make, model, any year, 30 to 50% off out of the Los Angeles, California area, and they'll get it right to you. Thank you very much. Raising Black Millionaire, Sister Tia Muhammad. She teaches economic empowerment and development to young Black children using flashcards. Thank you very much. Brother Kenneth Muhammad, bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship bow ties to you all across the country. Also, the Detroit Mecca Project. Brother Kamal out of Chicago has a project where they're fixing up the community inside of Detroit and making it a safe and decent place to live. Thank you very much. Brother Chantel X, the X and Express. They specialize in refrigeration. They ship it and they pay their truck drivers weekly. Thank you very much, Brother Chantel. The Real Hip Hop Network. They have their own app where you can get paid based off of your streams. So if you have your whatever talent you have, reach out to them and they'll get. And you know we have an independent platform. Brother Jabbar Muhammad of Chicago, Client First Construction, painting, carpentry, flooring, plumbing, etc. in the Chicago area and the Memphis, Tennessee area as well. Coming right back to you, Brother Enoch. Speaking of Brother Enoch, Hip Hop Detoxx, the truth without boundaries. Make sure you contact Brother Enoch Muhammad if you have any talent whatever your skill set that you are, or if you're booking, reach out to Brother Enoch Muhammad of Hip Hop Detoxx, Dr. Henry M. Carter, King Henry's Turkey Legs right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you very much, Brother Rashad Muhammad, COVID-19 disinfecting cleaning service in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you very much, sir. Last but not least, or almost last but not least, my father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, AbdulSharif.com, and my two books, which are both on Amazon, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and also No Father, No Excuse. Thank you very much to all of the sponsors, the donors. Please cash at the People's Podcast to keep us going. Thank you very much, Sister Love It. Thank you very much for everybody who's in the comments, always showing love. Okay, now you spoke of facing the Ku Klux Klan. You had being 15, being out to 5 in the morning. Chicago, the prime of the 90s, gang culture. Has there ever been a time that you've been faced with fear? And if so, how have you overcome that fear?
Wow, I don't even know which way to start with that one. You know, of course, we all have heard the acronym FEAR is false evidence appearing real.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I would say overcoming fear. You know, I remember coming into the nation. I remember driving in a caravan, taking the minister to the airport one time. And, you know, that was during the time we all had those Lincolns. We would rent those Lincoln town cars. And them jokers, boy, the brakes was just ridiculous. I mean, you just tap the brake. And so I remember the police coming up on us. This is like my first time going on a detail. And the police came up on us trying to pull us over. And I forget who the brother was that was driving, but I'm looking and I'm like, damn, they're about to pull us over. We on detail. We running through red lights and everything. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And so, you know, I was like concerned at first because I'm like, okay, what the hell to do? The brother told me, he said, tell them they got to go talk to our superior officer. I looked at him, that's right. I rolled the window down. I said, no, sir, go talk to our superior officer. Roll the window back up. And that felt so good to do that. You know, because we never talk to the police like that. You know what I mean? The police gonna pull you over. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, what the hell we gonna do? Yes, I got the instruction, talk to our superior officer. And that's what the hell they did. You know what I mean? They had to drive up, but they couldn't stop us from running them damn red lights. That's all it was. You couldn't stop us from running the red light. You know what I mean? And yes, so, you know, those kind of experiences, you know, it does something to you, because when you not used to dealing with the police like that, I mean, brother, I would be outside. I remember Chicago. Those from Chicago will remember this. There was about literally, and I'm gonna downsize the number. There was about between, I would say, 9,000 to 10,000 young people. It probably was much more. Out downtown at McCormick Place in Chicago, I think it was 87. There was this huge house party with all these mega DJs. It was about at least 15, 20 DJs. The best known, like the most known DJs in Chicago at that time were going to be at one place to party from like 7 at night to about 7 in the morning. It was going to be a jackathon, you know, all this house music, right? Every high school, college, everybody flocked. It was like a mini Million Man March. Before the Million Man March, I had never been in the streets where we like this. We totally, like, you couldn't hardly move. They flaked on the party. People started rioting in the McCormick Place. People busting out windows, snatching down chandeliers. And so the police came, and they came, you know, on horseback, some of them. I'll never forget it. A police officer was swinging on people, and the horse's head was moving around, damn near about to hit individuals. And the police was like right in front of me, and one of them, the officer swung, and so I literally had to duck, but then I had to keep going because as he swung, this big ass horse head was coming at me. And so I had to duck the horse's head and his fist. Brother, you talking about my heart was like, cause I'm like, I'm about to die out here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm over here thanking God. Cause I mean, we on the train, and people have chandeliers. The chandeliers they snatched from a recording place. People literally got chandeliers on the train, and everybody, like, that was the talk. It's still the talk in Chicago. Those who part of the house music history, because that has never happened, to have that many people trying to get into a party spot, and when the party got shut down, people went ballistic. And I was out there on 22nd in Michigan trying to get into the La Mirage nightclub. And of course, they wouldn't let nobody in because of just too many people. So to have those, that kind of experience with the police, to be at parties and people start shooting and, you get bullets flying over your head. Before I came into the nation, I experienced those kind of things. But when I came into the nation, I had a different orientation. Yes, so I'll never forget, we was locking down a meeting. I think it was on Cottage Grove at one of the projects, and Brother Abdul was speaking, and we heard gunshots, downstairs. So we go downstairs, we run it, and as soon as we get downstairs, we step out, we look, we didn't run, we kneeled down so we could see where the shooters were. And once we identified them, we was chasing them. They got guns. They running from us. They running from the brothers in suits and bow ties. And I'm like, that's the way it's supposed to be. I'm like, we ain't running. So that was a total, because of the orientation of mind and the truth that entered into our hearts, man, we ain't fearing nothing but Allah. So that was a whole different, way of thinking compared to when I didn't have the teachings. I'm thinking about police and life in a different way. But once I started, once we get the teaching, it's like, oh, hell no. We coming at you. I don't care what you got on you. You know what I mean? My God controls the atmosphere. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna be a thinker, but I'm coming at you, And even just lastly about that particular thing, I remember working at in Rockwell Gardens. The infamous Rockwell Gardens store.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brother, this is 1995, before the Million Man March. I spent my summer in Chicago. And this is when I first got married. I got married in college. And so I just got married, come to Chicago with my new wife. And I gotta work. We gotta go back to Carbondale, and I gotta take care of these bills. So they're like, hey, come work down at Rockwell. You know what I mean? You can get your 8-hour shift. I had the graveyard shift from midnight to 8 in the morning. My first night there, I'm walking into the projects. Bing, bing, bing. The GDs are shooting at the vice lords. So one building, they shooting at the other building, and I'm walking in the other building. So bullets are on my right side and my left side as I am walking into the door. And I'm just walking. I'm suited and booted, so they know I'm not them. I ain't your op. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yes,
but
sir.
That was a norm, bro. And so when I think about those things, you gotta face your fear, because to work in those conditions and not become a hypocrite, because those brothers that was there, brother, they was up all night, all morning. There was shorties at that time. I had never seen shorties 9, 10 years old smoking blunts, walking down the street. They was outside like it was 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They was smoking blunts. And these shorties like 9, 10, 11 years old. Their favorite sport, I'm not exaggerating. Anybody that worked in Rockwell Gardens know about the rats in Rockwell. The rats was huge. They look like puppies. And so they used to chase the rats with bats. And that was a game. Killing the rats with bats at 3, 4, 5 in the morning. So I'm over in Rockwell Gardens, and I'm like, well, these are our people. So hey, my interaction, hey, we gonna talk, you know what I mean? We gonna chop it up, but hey, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing while I'm here at Rockwell Gardens. And they respected that. And that was the shield, because people had different experiences in Rockwell Gardens, but I never had to physically fight none of the brothers. I never had to. I never even got into any conflict with them, but I did communicate with them all the time. Sometimes I would scare them because I would talk to them on purpose. How you doing, bro? You know, how you doing, brother? Good to see you, man. You know, and sometimes they would be kind of like, damn, he likes talking to us. He ain't scared of us. Like, no. You know, I grew up, you know, I was telling you about the white building. I grew up in Inglewood. So when I first came in the nation, I used to wear a blue baseball cap with a star and crescent. And people thought I was crazy being around them GDs and BDs wearing a star and crescent hat. I'm like, man, look, this don't represent what you think. And so I never had any problems being around all them GDs and BDs with my star and crescent hat. You know, maybe it helped because it was blue. They wasn't tripping.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, a lot of people will give you love in the comments and thank you, and everybody's about killing rats and wow. So on the famous DA Smart song "Walk with Me," what where would the white building have been? Would that have been what side of town would that have been?
Oh, we were about no more than 5 minutes away from Vulture City.
Okay.
Because DA lived, you know, I think it's 5415 on State Street, right? And so we used to go to the Daniel Hale William clinic. My mom would take us there right in Robert Taylor Projects. So I lived on, you know, 62nd in Michigan, but then we moved to 58 in Michigan. And so I was right down the street from DA. You know, I didn't know him at the time, but, you know, we lived in the area and I had family that went to his high school because he went to DuSable. And so, you know, Muhammad Ali, he had a, what they call it, a mobile restaurant. And we used to go there. And I remember meeting Muhammad Ali. He would come around the neighborhood. And so, you know, when Muhammad Ali came, that's the champ. So we would come and see the champ. And so he would, I remember, man, now I'm thinking about it. I remember talking to him one time because he was sick and he was in the hospital, but he was taking phone calls. And I was a little shorty, and I had a chance to talk to the champ, you know. But he used to come by that little mobile restaurant he had called Ali's that was right there on State Street, right there at Robert Taylor's, you know. So yeah, you know, we lived in the area where the Wabash building, the Calumet building, the BD building, all of that was around the white building. It was like right next to each other. Wabash building, white building, 220, Calumet building. And then we have another area across the street called Parkway Gardens, which they call O Block now. And so all the Chief Keef and Lil Durk and just all the different people that, you know, O Block and Lamron, all that, it's in close proximity, you know, on the south side of Chicago.
Yes, sir. And thank you that you were able to make it out safe. Have you ever had, we spoke earlier about encounters dealing with police, law enforcement, but we didn't get to go on air about the FBI. Have you ever had any encounters with the FBI?
Yes, sir. And you know, we're on Facebook, right?
Correct.
So this is a PSA for those on Facebook. You know, we've been told that we should walk our posts in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert. We just didn't know that walking your post was like a prophecy about us posting on Facebook. You need to type your post in a perfect manner and be alert, because I put something on Facebook that triggered the FBI to come to my house. Right before we were invited to go to Iraq to be part of a conference where you know, activists and artists and people who work with youth or whatever were invited. And so I brought with me several artists. I brought Kenny Muhammad, the God of Sound. I brought, you know, Young Khan the Don, you know, Soldiers at War and everything. I brought him with me, and then Fanon from Chicago. And so we traveled from Chirac to Iraq, and I was putting on Facebook, let's have a conversation about us going from Chirac to Iraq and the whole media image of Iraq being a certain kind of way, and is it fair to call Chicago Chirac? I did that about maybe like 7 o'clock that evening. I get a knock on the door about 9:30, 10. Boom, 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 boom. And so my wife like, who is that? I go to the door. I see a white guy and a black guy. So I open up the door. I say, yes, I'm gonna help you. This is so-and-so from Homeland Security, and he's from the FBI. We're looking for Enoch Muhammad. So I'm like, I'm Enoch Muhammad. Said, we want to talk to you. We know that you are you got your passport to go to Iraq, and we want to talk to you about a few things. Now, I've been hearing about the FBI visiting Muslims for years, right? So in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. We're about to. It's time to get it on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the first thing I already knew is that y'all ain't coming in my house. In my head, I'm like, you all stand right here on this porch, because he was trying to look like I was going to invite him in. Oh, hell to the no. So I looked at him. I said, you want to interview me for what? Well, we just want to ask you a couple of questions about, who you're going to be meeting with and where you're going. I said, well, okay, I'm about to go to work. So you all have a card or something, because I can't talk to you right now. And how long do you want to talk to me? He said, it's about 45 minutes. In my head, oh, hell to the no. I said, you got a cell phone? I'm gonna call you back later. You know what I mean? So as soon as they gave me their card information, I called my attorney Louis Myers. Louis Myers don't play. As soon as I told Louis Myers, may Allah be pleased with that brother, work that he has done. First thing Lou said, man, these motherfuckers always bothering people. He started cussing them out, talking about what happened when him and Akbar got stopped, when Muhammad Ali and Dionne Warwick and Isaac Hayes, when they was going to do some contractual work, when Muhammad Ali was going to fight in Africa or whatever. It was something that was going on dealing with artists, and he was talking about how they stopped him or stopped Akbar, and he was like, look here, whatever you do, he said, first of all, I'm gonna talk to him. So give me their information. You ain't gotta say nothing, another word. But he said, whenever you are approached by FBI, he said, the first thing you do is you tell yourself, make sure you understand, do not lie to them about anything. Because if you lie to a federal officer, you can be prosecuted. So if they say something as stupid as, man, it's a wonderful day outside. It's nice and sunny, but you see it's cloudy as hell, it's cold, it's snowing, it's wind. He said, you better tell them, oh no, it's not, it's a horrible day. It's horrible as hell. You don't agree with them, because any form of agreement to a lie is an entrapment, but for the FBI, you lied to a federal officer. So that was the first thing he said. And then the second thing, he was like, you don't have to answer no question. Ain't none of their damn business who the hell you meeting with. You went to get your passport, and then I had to explain to him that the trouble I had getting a passport. Because when we received our Muhammad in 1996, we received the paperwork, we signed it, and we were able to get rid of our slave name for religious reasons. Well, with all these different Patriot Act, laws and the different things, they changed the rules up. However, when I went to get my passport and everything renewed, they told me, well, you can't be known as Muhammad. You got to use your slave name. Or they didn't say slave name. They said, your first name. I said, no, I renounced my slave name in 1996, and I was given a holy name because we were brought here as slaves. So I started teaching them in the State Department. We were brought here as slaves, and we didn't have a choice. And as soon as I did that, brother, I went through 3 black women, no exaggeration, 3 black women. I had to tell them the same story, because the first time I told them that, they said, well, we had to have them look this over. Then the second time I told them, they said, well, we'll take your money now, because we couldn't take your money, but we'll call you and tell you to come to get your passport. They called me the next day and said, come get your passport. And I waited for almost an hour and a half for them to tell me, well, they're still adjudicating your paperwork. so we can't give you a password. And I told them, don't have me come back up here again, because I had to go to work, and I took off to come get my passport. If you all are still adjudicating it, why call me? You all know, brother, I went through a whole lot with them about that. I'm talking about giving them all kind of information. And then a Caucasian is the one that took my money and said, well, everything looks good, so we'll give you a passport. And so the sister who finally gave you the passport, she gave it to me, and she asked me, are you okay? And so I looked at it and I said, you all were talking about this. This is a pretty peculiar situation, wasn't it? And she just looked at me and she didn't say nothing, because I know they never had somebody probably come up there and give them the history on how these are our slave names and it was forced upon us and we didn't know our damn name, so we just ran with it.
Okay.
So when the FBI came, you know, they had all the information. They knew why I was going. They knew I had all the paperwork of who I was going to meet with. They had all of that, but they thought they were going to pump me for some information, and that didn't happen. And so they never, once Lou Myers got to them, I never communicated with them again, but they did threaten me. They threatened me by saying, if you don't talk to us, you may have problems when you return. And so when I returned, they did stop me, and they refused to. They said I couldn't use my cell phone because they were going to interrogate me. And I was, man, okay, I'm sitting here and wait. And so I waited, and they were like, they looked at my information again. You just came back from Iraq. I'm like, yeah, you know that already. You see my passport and the stamp. Yes. So they let me go, but they detained me and kind of put me aside from everybody, so then they could, talk that talk. So, praise be to Allah, I was able to get the necessary guidance, so that wasn't going to be something that would stop me, but it made me to be aware that the things that we post on social media, they are being examined.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We do have algorithms to analyze everything we post. And so we have to just be mindful of it, because it took them less than 12 hours to come to my house based upon something I posted on Facebook. So walk your post that you type in a perfect manner, and keep always on the alert, so you could be fully prepared to greet the alphabet boys when they come.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What do you do for fun now, brother?
Shoot, man. Well, we virtual right now, so I watch movies. I still write.
Okay.
You had asked me earlier about rapping and everything. When I first came into the nation, I stopped writing because I was so busy studying and researching. And so, when I came in, the brothers, one time I came to study group before I got my ex, and I had to be escorted off the property. And the reason why is because I had the name of my rap group designed in the back of my head. I used to have a low top fade, and so my rap group was called Hoes. Yeah, that was the name of my group, bro. And so one of the brothers, I'm in the study group, and one of the brothers came and said, brother, you come here for a minute. I said, yes, sir. He said, brother, what is that in the back of your head? And I said, he said, is that Hoes? I said, brother, that's the name of my rap group. It stands for homies out every day struggling. I gave him the good side. I ain't want to give him the bad side. It meant homies out every day skeezing.
Okay.
I didn't want to give him the death side. I gave him the life side.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
he looked at me, said, brother, I don't care what that means, brother, but that's disrespectful to the sisters up in here, man. So you're going to have to get that cut out your head before you can come back to study group. And so little did I know that traveled around. They said, man, a brother came to the mosque with holes in his head. And it looked good too. I'm talking about my guy, Lucas, who's our barber. He would design with those old English letters, and he knew how to design in your head real good. And it made it, it popped. You know what I mean? It was sweet. But yeah, I had to get rid of the hoes. So, all my raps back then, it was about life and partying in the streets, So, of course, coming into the mosque, it began to change. You know, it was still a little bit street, but it began to change. So I wasn't just talking about partying, you know. Um, it began to put a little consciousness in it. And then of course, the more I stayed into the teachings, then it began to change incredibly. But it took the minister and your father to say some things to make me to say, hey, I'm gonna get back, writing. But I didn't want to, in all honesty, when I saw like Brother Akeem, I saw that he was already signed to a record label, getting distribution. He was on Rap City. My focus was more on how to push him because he's carrying the teachings and the message. And so let's push him. So that's how I became a booking agent. And I started learning how to become a press person or a public relations person. I began reading and applying. And so I started, doing that. And then when I met D.A. Smart, it was over. When I met D.A. Smart, before I came into the mosque, D.A. Smart was, he had just got through doing a video with Dennis Edwards and Eddie Kendricks. And the video with the Temptations at that time, and he was rapping on the video. And so he used to wear this blue leather outfit, like Eddie Murphy and Delirious or whatever. And so when I saw D.A. Smart, my rap group was performing in his talent contest. And so D.A. Smart was a special guest performer. He wasn't competing because he was already out there. Man, when I saw him do Black People Ain't Prejudice, We Just Mad. Oh, man. I'm like, this is the coldest rapper I've ever heard. Big Daddy Kane was there. Other artists was there, but he blew them completely out. So I saw him at Chicago. It was Malcolm X College, and I think it was either Chicago State or somewhere else. But when I saw him perform, I'm like, man, this dude cold. So by the time, I met him again through Omnipotent Enterprises and all of that, it was like, man, I can rap, but he raps better. So I'm going to push him, And it took people like DA and Phenom and other artists to tell me, no, you keep writing because you got your own voice and and so I kind of battled with that, I think I started writing a lot more when brother from Atlanta, Sinister Black, when he was murdered, brother, that I cried. That hurt, man. I had just met him when he had did Lion at Savior's Day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was so happy to meet him because, all kind of, DA and other people was going through different things. And so he came on the scene and I'm like, man, I love this brother here. So I'm, looking forward to connecting with him and doing more with him. And when I heard that brother was murdered, man, it was like, damn. So that kind of pushed me to start back writing. I started going to open mics and doing spoken word, and I'm on campus doing poetry. I came back to Chicago doing poetry and, started placing in different contests. And so after I, started doing that, I began seeing how you don't just need people to be poets. You need people to be able to facilitate and direct the artists so then we can expand what we're doing and expound on the messages. And so that's when we began synergizing, being a facilitator and a teacher and a counselor and a change agent with the artistry, So it made it where it was a less of a need for me to just focus on my artistry as far as just, rapping or doing poetry. With so many great artists, man, let me blow you up and let you do what you do. And then I'll come and do my part in an artistic way. So then, we can explode the word. And as long as we can explode the word, maybe more people will be inspired to do better and learn more about themselves.
Beautiful, praise be to Allah. Excellent. Well, what is your favorite album of all time?
Man, that's a horrible question.
Let's get into it. What's your favorite album?
That's a horrible question. Because when you ask the question about what I do for fun, this is fun talking to you. It's fun. It's fun doing stuff that people might consider nerdy. I like reading. I like writing. I like talking to people. I like building things. And so any album that could reflect on how to be greater, how to be better, and do it like I can understand why people like Busta's new project, because as he said, you know, he put some science in and he put that heat to it, you know what I mean? And he combined it, you know, and to be able to put some artistry together, but make it sound good, you know what I mean? And make it relevant to different types of people, you know? So when it comes to albums, I would probably, like, as many albums you got represented behind you, bro, I probably could give you about that many that I would put up there as a complete album. Now, if I was forced to say 2 or 3, I would say that Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder
Okay.
is a full, complete album that
Yes, sir.
I love that album. I love My Favorite Things by John Coltrane.
Okay.
And
Okay.
at first I didn't like jazz. My father would listen to it and I wasn't really into it. But then as I got older and began studying, and I read a book called Blues People by Leroy Jones. You know, his name is Amiri Baraka. He's an ancestor also. And when I read that book, it was so inspirational because it talked about all the genres of music that we produce in America from Negro spirituals. And he went into not only the scales and the characteristics of each genre, but he talked about at the end of the book that there would be a music that would come at the turn of the century that would be a mirror image of the condition of Black people in America. And when I read that book, I said, man, this dude is talking about hip hop. This brother is prophesying about hip hop before hip hop was known as that and came into existence. So, you know, for me, you know, hip hop is very difficult for me to pick like one album because I love Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn. I love that. You know, I love Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation. I was a huge NWA fan.
Okay.
So Straight Outta Compton is like one of my all-time favorites.
Yes, sir.
You know, I mean, these are complete albums, you know what I mean? Where from beginning to end, you know, Rakim, you know, Paid in Full. I mean, it's a complete album. It's like it's so many, it's hard to just say one, you know. You know, some people might not like Eminem, but man, Eminem cold. You know what I mean? He got an album. He got an album that I had to talk to people about because I'm like, look here. Lollipop was the #1 song at the time. I think Sean Bell was murdered by the police when he was at his bachelor party in New York. And the #1 song was Lollipop. And there was no outrage. There was no, you know, it was like people weren't in tune. But when Eminem put out White America, you know, when he put out the songs on that album, man, what's that song he put out? It's one of the songs after before White America, Square Dance. Square Dance.
Yes, sir.
When you start looking at some of those songs and the lyrics and how he was just bold with it, talking about the politicians and the conditions and joining the army, and it was Black folks afraid when that song would come on in the club. They was afraid because it's like, damn, you know, he talking like this, and I'm like, well, he got the spirit of Ice Cube and other people going through him. And in the art of rap, he acknowledged all the Black artists that influenced him.
Absolutely.
So hell, he got white skin, but hell, he got something else going on that is not skin deep. So I would say that, you know, it's by me studying hip hop, it's kind of difficult for me to just say one, you know. But I'll tell you this. I think if the DOC would have never have had that motorcycle accident,
yes, sir.
I think that one album the DOC put together was phenomenal. And if he would have been able to put out more, I don't know where he would have been in terms of the great, you know, hip hop artists. But you know that he was fantastic, you know. But it's hard having that. What's the conversation about the God MCs?
Yes, sir.
That's it's hard to put 5, you know what I mean? It's very challenging. But I'll tell you this though, you ever see the Last Airbender?
The movie? Yes, sir.
Yeah, and
Yes, sir.
even the Avatar, the cartoon series,
Cartoon. Yeah, yes, sir.
animation
Yes, sir.
series. You know how they show all the avatars that led up to Aang being an
Absolutely.
avatar?
Yes, sir.
It's
Yes,
kind
sir.
of like you got a whole bunch that if you could just put all of them on one project and take the best, I would say that would represent the greatest of all time for me. If you could take like the greatest hits of like about 10 of them and just put it on one piece, we may have to do that. Get the
Yes,
license to do it and
yes,
sell
sir.
it.
Beautiful. What would you like your legacy to be, brother Enoch?
Hmm. You know, I don't honestly think about my legacy a lot, and I probably don't because I feel like there's so much for me to do that's undone. Um, I would say that I really would like to just I would like to have a legacy where whatever I help, and serve in doing that, we we have something left behind for generations to come that are practical steps that show you how to and why you're doing what you're doing,
Mm, mm.
because we keep on having to reinvent the wheel every generation. And so I would want to just help to be part of a legacy where we institutionalize our work so that we don't have to keep on having these things come up, and you got to now have another generation that gets addicted to this. They get stuck and they having to deal with these issues. And you know I say to a lot of the youth when we working with them and young adults, I say, man, slangs may change, but unfortunately a lot of things stay the same. So if I can show you myself and five others that went through the same thing that you are either going through or about to go through, then if I can help you to navigate away from incarceration or early grave, that's the legacy that I would want to have, because you can be so much greater than us and waste less time, because we waste so much time working our way out of ditches, and addiction, from a social scientific perspective, addiction is defined as the pursuit of pleasure at the expense of your freedom. And if I'm pursuing pleasure and it deprives me of having a free dome, which means now I am a virtual slave here. And so instead of having a king or queen sitting on the throne in my dome being free, I got a slave, or a savage, or a beast or a nigger up here that was made by my open enemy. And that's what's running my decisions and the choices I make and the consequences that come from them. So I would want my legacy to be that which, people can say, man, he was really helping in that process to free people. And as I'm freeing people, I'm working to free me, because whatever addictions that, I've discovered about myself, I have to constantly work on how to get free from them and distance myself from them. So if something happens, I don't have to go 10 steps back. I can say, hey, all right, this was a setback, but guess what? It might be a setup for a come up. So let me think about it, a little differently. Let me approach it differently. Stop getting so pissed off at people who seem to be obstacles, because we've been taught about sandpaper.
That's right.
And I
That's right.
used to say that term in a real hurt kind of way, like, oh, sandpaper ass nigga.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
But
sir.
now I'm like, you know what? Sandpaper got a purpose. The wood would never look as pretty. That we all talk about how we love how oak, varnish look, how pretty that wood look. But man, if it wouldn't have met that sandpaper, it
Yes,
wouldn't
sir.
be as smooth as it is now. And so now I have to, being blessed to be able to say, man, I've been able to see things differently, where now I don't even look at so and so like that no more. You know, I just say, hey, everybody got their struggles. Whether you in leadership, you in authority, or you a subordinate, all of us have to take our turns to be in leadership. Whether it's with your family, with your peers, or on a particular project, all of us have to take that responsibility. And that's what leadership is. It's responsibility and accountability. And so that's what I think I would want my legacy to be, so that people who learn from anything I've ever done or brought them to, they can say, hey, I'm seeing how to do better and be better, so then their children's children can benefit from it. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. And I can't wait to put this on YouTube. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I want to thank you again, Brother Enoch, for your sacrifice, the sacrifice of your family. And you inspire a lot of people. A lot of guests that I've had on, I bring artists on to perform. And many of them who have come on have always said, we was in Hip Hop Detoxx with such and such. And this year we performed in Hip Hop Detoxx. So we had Sister Akila, Brother Vincent, somebody, like, we had so many people who come on who've been a part of your production and your team. So you've inspired many of us in Savior's Day concerts and outside in the community. So whatever we can do to assist, we here for you. I'm proud of you, sir. Man, I'm just inspired. This was an inspirational interview, and I needed this. So thank you, sir.
Praise be to Allah. Now I got a question for you. You asked me something, and one of our rules in Hip Hop Detoxx is you talk about it, you got to be about it. I got a piece called Willie Lynch. And I got a piece called The Last Poet. Willie Lynch is more historical. Last Poet is a little bit off the chain a little bit. Which piece you want me to do?
All right. The off the chain one. Let's get
Why did I know you was gonna say that?
Let's get to it.
You know, it's funny. This is the one that several artists told me I need to memorize and perform it. And so I never committed it to complete memory, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is called The Last Poet. Get off your ass, poet. Take off that mask, poet. Reality haunts poets. Punani my jammy, blackberry pie, erotica orgasm soaked with grain alcohol high, poet. Responsibility is a lifestyle, poet. Struggle to pay the bills, poet. I'm your mama and I'm gonna poetically beat your ass because you don't believe that fat meat is greasy, poet. Politicking for the next gig and selling a CD to get your next meal, poet. Ramadan, Hanukkah, Daniel fast so I can last, poet. So I pay homage to top of the class, Gil Scott Heron, Amiri Baraka, Maya Angelou, and the legendary Last Poets. I'm from the school of hard knocks on these here cold city blocks, guns cocked. I come up on the rough side of the road, pain like sliding down 1,000 razor blades soaked in gasoline and lit on fire, poet. Trip, the spiritual light, fantastic. Journey to the other side, I'm so high, poet. The poet whose poem is 1 hour and 14 seconds, 15 seconds, 16 seconds, and counting, poet. Advocating for a cause, heal the world, save the children, power fists up, aborted baby in a jar, the right to operate a moving vehicle at sometimes high rates of speed while indulging in a myriad of mind-bending states of reality-altering substances, poet. Waiting to exhale. So now I'm calling Tyrone because I'm an independent woman and you can't pay my or your bills. So now I have to shut you down. I had to shut you down, poet. Reminiscing on Chico sticks, big wheels, sit and spins, penny candy and Saturday morning cartoons, super transfers, fat crayons, candy cigarettes, double dutch, pickles with peppermint sticks, poet. I don't need no beat, poet. I done performed with Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni, Saul Williams, Jessica Caramore, Langston Hughes, Gwendolyn Brooks, Claude McKay. I've been on TV, radio, internet radio, the Maury Povich Show. Here, there, everywhere. So you got to listen to me, poet. Yo. Drink more water. See, I only eat veggies. Watch out for electromagnetic waves. Don't eat the cat rat fat. Don't eat the cat rat dog fat backs to send you to hell. Damn, I need a black and mild poet. See, I wrote this because when I was 4 years old, see, my mama had told me, well, and then because what goes around comes around. And if you live by the sword, but what had happened was I got to explain every word in my poem before I say my poem. Poet. From the I don't go too fast poet to the I don't need a class poet. All in all, we all make up the eternal everlast, who was the first poet, known by some as Ra, Ptah, Yahweh, Allah, the Father, the One, Kulu, Elohim, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the Omnipotent, the originator of all that is, yet this is the first and the very last poet. Peace. I haven't done that one in a minute.
So excellent. Okay, thank you. That's good. I'm glad you're doing it, and it's inspirational. People showing you love in the comments right now, and once we get it on YouTube, people really gonna mess with it as well. Thank you, brother Enoch, for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll connect somewhere in the theater. I'm an actor, a director, so all I've been doing is plays in Atlanta down here. So I'm sure our paths are going to we're gonna cross paths in a creative way. So I look forward to
we're gonna do it, brother. No, we locked in together now.
Praise be to Allah.
So whatever I have access to, offline, we'll talk, and you can give me guidance on just what you see and what we can do. And the brothers who do the editing, we have a 23-minute documentary for the it's called From Chirac to Iraq and Back, and it's a lot of footage on us going to Iraq, and I need some help with finishing the documentary because this was the pilgrimage that they have in Iraq that the poor people put on. It's not the one in Mecca. This one is the largest gathering of any sort in the world, where over 15 to 20 million people come to celebrate the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him. His name is Imam Hussein. And so he was martyred. And so people who are Shiite and Sunni and all kind of Muslims from around the world, and people, they consider him like a patron saint of martyrs. And so they come from all over the world to Najaf, Iraq, and they walk 62 miles from Najaf, Iraq to Karbala. And so we were there during the time of this pilgrimage. And so I would love to get those brothers to see if we can work together to be able to complete the, what took place there, because brother, some stuff happened that we have never told to a lot of people. And the Iranians who were present there, because the Iranians and the Iraqis now work together. And so one of the directors who were there, they did a 23-minute documentary short and gifted that part to us as our introduction to the documentary. So I would love to, collaborate with you and others so that we can grow and build, because that was an experience that was totally, that's a whole other conversation. We was over there for 10 days and everything took place from earthquakes. The last day we experienced an earthquake that was 7.3 on a Richter scale. I had never been in an earthquake before. So from that happening to me and Young Khan, we got sick while out there. We actually, we believe they call it MERS, the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. It's a form of coronavirus, or a cousin to coronavirus. We were completely sick after the 5th. I think Young Khan got sick after the 3rd day. I got sick after the 5th day. And it was so bad that they had to give us what's called a Z-Pack for me to even get on an airplane going back to Chicago. Because it took 15 hours to fly just to Doha, which was a stop. It's right next to Dubai. And Doha would be the stop after you go from Chicago to Doha, then Doha an hour to Iraq. And so that experience alone, brother, it's a lot in it. But I would say that between 2008 and now so much has happened. We've documented a lot of things, but we've probably released only about 15% of all the things that have transpired with us doing Hip Hop Detoxx. And you know, it culminated for us with the trip to Iraq. That was, brother, we, just to say this, we went viral while we was out there. We didn't know this, but we had a cipher during the pilgrimage, and that had never happened for over 1,400 years. There's never been anybody to do anything artistic during a pilgrimage ever, except for when Imam Hussein, when he was fighting against the government at that time before they killed him. He had 16 black men that were with him, and the leader of the black men that were there, his name was Lord John, J-A-W-N, and we never heard of Lord John. And people in Philadelphia use the word John all the time, and we heard that John means black in Arabic. Well, we found out that Lord John, he was fighting against Yazid, who was the leader at that time, and wanted the prophet's grandson to bow down so that the spiritual people who followed him would come on his side, but they wouldn't bow down. And so Lord John was a poet. And so he was fighting with the sword, but he was spitting poetry while doing it. And they say that when he was mortally wounded, he was saying, I may not be able to fight with the sword, but I will continue to fight with the sword of truth that emanates from my mouth. And so they told us that story after we went viral out there, because, you know, Phenom was spitting, him and Young Khan, I was beatboxing because Kenny hadn't gotten there yet. And so I was beatboxing, and we didn't know that all these cameras, some of them was the media from Iraq and from Iran. So they told us that over 60 million people saw us on the news in Persia. And so once we came back to one of the destination points, we were flooded with people that were like talking to us and wanting to take pictures. And so it was like, man, if this is what being famous is like, boy, I don't like it. It's like, at first, it's like a shock, because you're like, you can't go nowhere. You know, and it's like, oh, okay. But then it becomes like, wow, this is crazy. I don't see how Michael Jackson and other people have done this, because you know, it was a blessing, but it was like overwhelming. And so we got lots of footage, you know, of us having ciphers on top of rooftops. You know, we had one Arab brother who was like, he was like, man, you all are lit. We like, lit. And he was like, he was talking about French Montana. What you know about French Montana? So, you know, they listen to hip hop in secrecy over there, because they can't listen to it in the public. And so we were like, it was phenomenal. You know what I mean? So again, you know, whatever we can do offline, we'll talk, but people who want to, you know, connect, we overdue for it. You know, we really want to connect with people who want to help. And you see this background right here, this is one of our teaching tools. And like I said, our whole goal is to help young people to navigate away from this brown side where there's no life, to get to this green side where, man, you can have what you want, but you got to find a way to get out of this brown side, because this society and system is set up, you know, for us to allow our weaknesses to destroy us. So, man, praise be to Allah. Thank you for the invitation and for the dedication, brother. And I will most definitely continue to support you.
Praise be to Allah. And anything I can do, we locked in, and I'm glad that we had a conversation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, and may Allah bless you and your family and the organization.
Yes, sir. And you the same.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for watching.